A plot twist is a storytelling technique that introduces a radical change in the direction or expected outcome of the plot of a screenplay. When it happens near the end of a story, it is known as a twist or surprise ending. What makes a good plot twist? The twist must be necessary, believable, and make sense. No matter how unpredictable it might be, a plot twist that's outlandish or makes absolutely no sense is not effective. A bad plot twist also invalidates everything that has happened to the story up to that point and makes the movie less meaningful. On the other hand, a great plot twist not only shocks, but can make a good movie truly unforgettable. This is Deidre Ann Johnson, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 Korean movies with plot twists that will leave you sitting on your couch with your mouth hanging wide open and popcorn falling out of it. And for your information, there are absolutely no spoilers here, except for there being a twist. So now, onto our list. Number 10, Bloody Reunion. This film may be known by numerous alternate titles, but we're going with Bloody Reunion, which is the most logical of the bunch. The film begins close to the end, with the investigation of a torturous homicide in which only 2 women survived, an old bedridden teacher and her caregiver. The caregiver gives her story to the detective, beginning with the reunion of elementary school classmates who gather together to visit their ailing teacher, Ms. Park, at her seaside home. The rest of the story unfolds in flashback. Although 16 years have passed since any of the former students have seen Ms. Park, the school-time memories are still vivid for all involved because of the terrible things she did to them. Some of them are left with psychological traumas and even physical impediments from her harsh treatment. During the course of this reunion, people start to die at the hands of a masked killer on the loose, along with some of the ex-students who are trying to kill the teacher as well. The movie is engrossing and keeps you somewhat guessing despite never properly keeping the killer's identity secret. You know there will be more to it than that. Number 9, Confession of Murder. This film centers around a high-profile serial murder case in which 10 women have been killed. When the statute of limitations expires, a member of the victim's family commits suicide in front of the detective who is in charge of the case. 2 years later, a man publishes a book claiming to be responsible for the killings, along with details unknown to the public concerning the case. The book quickly sells like hotcakes, and the handsome author becomes a celebrity for his looks and apparent repentance. With the reappearance of the case in the media spotlight, the detective, as well as the victims' families, find their worlds turned upside down again. Confession of Murder weaves a suspenseful, compelling tale that saves its surprises until the very end. It also touches on some very interesting and relevant topics, such as the media's influence on society and the value of a statute of limitations. Number 8, No Mercy. This movie is about a forensic pathologist who works with a detective to find the murderer of a young woman. But after the murderer is put in jail, the pathologist finds out that he kidnapped his daughter. In order to save her, he must tamper with the evidence to get the murderer released within 3 days, or she will die. No Mercy has drawn many comparisons to a 2003 Korean film, mostly due to its concluding twist. Talking about that movie would involve spoilers, so it's better to leave it at that. Despite this, the movie still manages to surprise you. It's an excellent watch and accomplishes the feeling of gritty revenge South Korean films do consistently better than anyone else. Number 7, Montage. Montage tells the story of a mother whose child was kidnapped and later killed. However, the perpetrator was never caught. 15 years later and a few days before the case's statute of limitations expires, someone places a flower at the scene of the crime, a location which was only known to the girl's mother, the detective that took on the case, and the kidnapper himself. A few days later, another kidnapping occurs, which bears a striking resemblance to the 15-year-old unsolved case. The film starts out as your average suspense thriller and takes its time getting to the second half. tricking the audience into thinking that this is just your standard potboiler. But once the plot starts revealing more and some of the characters' motivations are brought to light, the film becomes a whole different beast, and some of the events in the first half take on an entirely different dimension. Coming up at number 6, Wonderful Nightmare. Wonderful Nightmare tells the story of a ruthless lawyer who survived a rough childhood to rise to the top of her profession, becoming selfish, isolated, and cold-blooded along the way. Her moral standards depend largely on how much money she is offered for each case. Everything changes one night when she's involved in a car accident and subsequently falls into a coma. She wakes up in heaven only to be informed that her death was a clerical error, and it was actually an old woman with the same name who was meant to die. To set things right, she is given the difficult task of inhabiting the body of another woman during the last month of her life, under strict instructions to play her part and not try to change fate. Unfortunately for her, the woman in question turns out to be an average housewife, married to a civil servant and saddled with a 6-year-old son and a bratty teenage daughter, struggling with debt and a long list of other problems. The film is heartwarming, funny at times, and a total tearjerker that really makes you look at life and remember to appreciate what you have. Very good lessons along the way about what constitutes true happiness. Number 5, Forgotten. There is nothing forgettable about this innovative, dramatic thriller that superbly weaves together several genre threads to create something entirely unique. The main protagonist is a college student who has just moved into a new house with his parents and older brother. As they are settling in, the older brother is kidnapped by mysterious men. Days later, he returns with no memory of his time away. Though the family tries to carry on, the younger brother is sure something is off about his brother's character. And then there's also the matter of a mysterious room down the hall that his father has forbidden him from entering. Forgotten explores just how far one will drive himself to find answers. The execution, acting, and plot twist are all quite flawless. The movie also sets a mood that is quite deceiving in the beginning, leading us to the eventual turn of events that we never expect. Number 4, Salut d'Amour. This movie is perfect for anyone who loves a combination of romance, drama, and plot twist that will hit you right in the feels. Based on a 2008 American film, Salut d'Amour follows the story of a grumpy 70-year-old man who lives alone and works part-time at the local supermarket. When a redevelopment project threatens to change his way of life, he refuses to add his name to a petition that would enable the project to move forward. He then meets a feisty elderly lady who runs the flower shop next door, and a life-changing courtship begins. Nearing the top of our list at number 3, The Handmaiden. A rather interesting tale of love, romance, suspense, and betrayal. The Handmaiden tells the tale of a young Japanese lady living on a secluded estate with her domineering uncle and a Korean woman who is hired to serve as her new handmaiden, but who is secretly plotting with a con artist to defraud her of her large inheritance. It's inspired by the 2002 novel Fingersmith by Welsh writer Sarah Waters, with the setting changed from Victorian-era Britain to Korea under Japanese colonial rule. This is a visually stunning film with brilliant characters and a story that takes twists and turns in unexpected ways before it reaches its conclusion. Number 2, Hello Ghost. In this film, a man's failed suicide attempt enables him to see ghosts, who later keep following him everywhere. He visits a shaman to make those ghosts leave him, but he is told that the ghost will not leave and they will not let him commit suicide either. Subsequently, he learns that if he helps the ghosts fulfill their unrealized dreams, they will leave him alone and he then can commit suicide. Meanwhile, he meets a nurse at the hospital and quickly falls in love, but the ghosts start taking over his body. The music choices are interesting and the ghosts are intriguing. You will definitely be glued to your seat to find out what happens next. This film is all about the huge twist at the end, and it won't disappoint. And coming in at number 1, Oldboy. How many times have you heard the phrase, revenge is a dish best served cold? How cold do you think? Think deeply about just how cold revenge can get. If you multiply that by 10, you'll get the essence of Oldboy. Based on the Japanese manga of the same name, Oldboy tells the horrific tale of a businessman who is imprisoned in a cell for 15 years without knowing the identity of his captor or the reason for his incarceration. When finally released, he finds himself still trapped in a web of conspiracy and violence. His own quest for vengeance becomes tied in with romance when he falls in love with an attractive, young female sushi chef. Every once in a while, there's a film you come across that blows your mind. Oldboy is one of them. It's not hard to praise it for its technical achievements, the intelligent script, the acting, and the amazing plot twists. The film never feels too long as the story always seems to be advancing, even towards the end. There's a reason why it won Grand Prix at Cannes Film Festival in 2004. It's filmmaking at its finest.